Hello. The story I'm about to read is not one of grand journeys or dramatic events, but it holds quiet, profound moments of human experience where the most sincere emotions and the smallest thoughts can change a life. This is a story about souls in search of connection, about relationships that do not follow convention, but are instead shaped by misunderstandings, care, and feelings that are often beyond explanation. I hope you will find something to relate to. An unspoken feeling, a familiar ache, or the gentle beauty of an unexpected encounter. Welcome to this story, a space where emotions are shared, inner thoughts are heard, and questions about love, loneliness, and connection quietly arise. After many sleepless nights, she finally had a peaceful sleep last night, the first in many days, following a long conversation with an older man she had just met. Early in the morning, as soon as she arrived at work, her phone chimed. A message had come in. Brief, just a few words. "Have you made it to work yet?" At first, she was surprised. Such a simple question, yet it made her heart flutter for a moment. Since leaving her hometown and struggling alone in this bustling city, no one had ever asked where she was, what she was doing, or whether she was tired. But almost immediately, a slight pang of regret crept in. No matter what he said or how much he seemed to care, he was still a married man, much older than her. Perhaps all that gentleness was just the usual flirtations of a seasoned man, the kind they often direct at younger women, like her. Though she had lived in the city for many years, she still couldn't quite shake her amazement at a certain type of man. Those who, having just climbed a little higher in life or recently escaped poverty with their wives and children, would quickly seek out a young woman to refresh their spirit. As the old saying goes, a full belly, restless limbs. A bitter way to describe those selfish souls who think only of their own desires, forgetting their obligations and the bonds of loyalty. The thought made her shiver. She imagined the whispers and sneers if she continued talking to this man, people mocking her for being involved with someone old enough to be her father. She felt a flush of shame as she recalled the things she had so freely shared the previous night. Secrets meant only for someone truly trustworthy. Not wanting this connection to go any further, she took the initiative to send him a message. "Please, don't text or call me anymore." Unable to find a convincing reason to delay or avoid this step, she lied. "My phone is out of balance." After sending the message, she immediately deleted his number, a number she had once saved with a hint of hesitation, now suddenly so unfamiliar. About 10 minutes later, as she sat with a coworker in the break room, a new message unexpectedly appeared. "Check your phone balance. If you find some credit, call me back." She finished reading the message and let out a soft chuckle. Turning to her friend, she said, still a bit surprised, "Hey, someone just accidentally topped up my account with 300,000 VND. They even said to call them back if I received the money." Her friend's eyes went wide. "Oh my God, they sent you 300,000 and you're not even going to call back? That sounds a bit cold, doesn't it?" Hearing this, she felt a bit uneasy. It was true. Because of a harmless little lie, she had ended up receiving a gesture she hadn't anticipated, something that left her feeling both awkward and a bit guilty, as if she had taken advantage of his kindness. Finally, she picked up her phone and dialed back. Before she could say a word, the familiar voice on the other end broke the silence. It was him, the older man she had just decided to erase from her life, the one she thought she had deleted from her phone and from her mind. Yet, with just a small act, he had managed to stir up a hesitation in her heart, making her feel strangely uncertain once more. She quickly hung up, silence, as if trying to cut off the thread before it unraveled any further. But deep down, a conflict simmered, a mix of gratitude and guarded caution. She thought that after hanging up, everything would settle, like a door she had firmly closed herself. But less than 5 minutes later, her phone rang again. It was his number. She hesitated, staring at the screen as if trying to avoid the inevitable, then sighed and tapped the answer button. "You don't need to call me back," he said, his voice low and gentle, like the soft breeze of a late afternoon. "I just needed to know you received the money. That's enough to make me happy." She remained silent, unsure how to respond, partly out of guilt, partly out of an awkward self-consciousness. "I didn't mean to bother you," he continued, his tone steady and sincere. "But I also don't want you to think I'm just some bored old man throwing money around for a phone call in return. I just felt that maybe you needed someone to listen. Just like me. For the first time in years, I found someone who makes me want to care, even though I know it won't lead anywhere." His words made her pause, not because they were particularly profound, but because they felt so real. It was a kind of honesty she had never heard from any other man before, without pretense, without expectation, and without any hidden agenda. Open. Just a gentle confession, as simple as the way someone might sit across from you on a rainy day and softly say, "The weather feels so sad, doesn't it?" "But you have a family," she finally spoke, her voice tinged with both skepticism and caution. "Why would you want to care about me?" "Yes," he replied, "I have a wife and children. But don't mistake this. Not every married man who reaches out to another woman does so out of lust. Sometimes they're just looking for a part of themselves that they lost a long time ago. I'm not asking anything from you. I just hope that I might be allowed to talk to you like two lonely souls who happen to cross paths in this vast, crowded city." This time, she didn't respond right away. Her heart tightened. It had been so long since she had heard anyone speak of loneliness in such a gentle, thoughtful way. For a fleeting moment, she felt her heart soften, like a dried flower touched by an unexpected rain. "All right, just a little talk," she whispered. "No promises." "Yes, just a little," he replied, and for the first time, they both fell into silence. Yet it didn't feel awkward. The day passed by gently. As her shift ended, she stepped out of work and watched the streams of people moving along the street. The same old roads, the same daily hustle. Yet somehow, today, everything felt softer, like a quiet cloud drifting by. She pedaled home, and for once, her legs no longer felt heavy. Her spirit, too, felt less hollow, as if she had found an invisible anchor somewhere in this vast, overwhelming world. The suffocating loneliness that had weighed on her for so many years seemed lighter today. As soon as she stepped into her apartment, her phone rang again. She didn't need to look to know it was him, because at this moment there was no one else who would reach out to her. The message appeared, short yet lingering. "Have you made it home yet? Your words last night left me with a lot to think about. Tonight, I'd like to invite you for a cup of coffee. We don't need to say anything, just sit quietly beside each other." She froze. A gentle but unsettling anxiety rose within her, not out of fear, but because she understood that she couldn't allow herself to step any further into this kind of relationship. How could she sit calmly next to a man old enough to be her father under the curious, judgmental eyes of others? How could she face herself, knowing full well that this connection could never an ordinary ending like so many others? She didn't want that. Not out of contempt, but out of fear. Fear that she might lose her resolve, that her own heart might betray her. She replied, "I'm very tired from work. Let's save it for another time." Just a few seconds later, his response came, "All right, then take a shower, have dinner, and I'll message you later." She stepped into her room, gently closing the door behind her. She had no expectations for this relationship. Yet, strangely, she didn't want it to vanish either. As she ate her dinner, her mind wandered to a hazy, uncertain future. If she and this man were to truly step into a relationship, what would it be called? Would people call it love? Or would they reduce it to that whispered cliche, a relationship between affection and money? the kind that people gossip about when they see a young woman beside an older man. She couldn't find a more graceful name for it. She frowned. No, she wouldn't let that happen. No matter what, she couldn't afford to lose her self-respect, couldn't allow herself to fall into a distorted connection, a kind of affection that even she couldn't quite name. After dinner, she sat quietly by the window. The lights from the apartments across the street flickered softly, where families gathered around their dinner tables, their laughter and conversations drifting through the cool night air, making her heart sink. Loneliness, that familiar, relentless feeling, stirred again. Like an invisible thread, it slowly tightened around her heart, squeezing her breath, making the air feel heavy. Then, as the city outside gradually faded into a deeper silence, the weight in her chest grew. She dreaded nights like these, when the world outside still buzzed with life, but her own heart felt as silent and cold as a forgotten room. It was on nights like these that she had often fallen into the deepest corners of loneliness, spending sleepless hours, wondering why she even existed or if anyone truly saw her for who she was. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. A small sound, but it cut sharply through the stillness. A message from him, like a warm breeze brushing against the fractured pieces of her soul. "Are you asleep yet? I just got back from the gym, had a quick meal, and now I'm in my study, texting you." She read it over and over, not quite understanding why such a simple message could make her heart sink. But this time, it didn't feel as heavy. It was as if, amidst this sprawling, indifferent city, someone truly had her in their thoughts. Barely a moment after she sent her reply, his response arrived. Longer than usual. But gentle, as if he were whispering softly into her ear amidst the quiet of the night. "I've read every word you wrote, and it felt like my heart was being squeezed. You were so young when you had to leave your family, carrying with you the feeling of being sent away like a forgotten object. I've never lived through that, but I can imagine how deeply it must hurt. I used to think only orphans suffered the worst kind of loneliness, but sometimes having parents yet living as if you have no place to call home, that's a far greater pain." She read his message and suddenly felt a tightness in her throat. No one, not even those closest to her, had ever spoken to her with such understanding. After a long pause, she finally typed back, "What about you? Have you ever felt abandoned like I have?" It took a while before her phone screen lit up again. This time it wasn't another message, it was a call. She hesitated, but then pressed the answer button. "I just thought that if we only text, you might not realize how seriously I'm listening to you," he said, his voice deep and slow, unhurried. She remained silent. In the stillness, she could almost hear the sound of their breathing, two fragile threads stretching across the vast distance between them. Then he continued, "I too have felt terribly alone, but not in my youth. It was after I had a family. There were days when I came home, and the first thing I saw wasn't my wife, but my own shadow in the mirror, living under the same roof, yet no longer truly belonging to each other. And gradually, no one asked me anymore, 'Are you tired?' or 'Have you eaten?' And just like that, I started to feel like I was slowly disappearing." For the first time, she felt the age gap between them no longer seemed so clear. The man on the other end of the line was no longer an old man, but a man quietly battling loneliness, just like her. "I don't know what to say anymore," she whispered. "You don't need to say anything. You just need to know, no matter what happens, there will always be someone somewhere listening to you. That's enough." The silence stretched again, but this time, it was not an emptiness. It was empathy, a soft touch between two souls that had been hurt and were trying to heal each other bit by bit. He asked softly over the phone, "So after that, how did you feel?" She paused for a moment, then continued typing, each word pulling along a dense fog of sorrowful memories. "I went back to my foster mother's house and lived there for a while longer. Life there was very proper. I had food, clothes, and got to go to school. But inside, I always felt like I was an outsider. I lived like a guest, never truly belonging there. And then I left again. That time, I didn't take the main road, didn't rush into the house like before. I just stood still, hiding behind the bamboo bushes at the gate, looking inside. My father, the man who was blind in both eyes, was slowly stepping across the yard. The house was silent, no sound. No one knew that a child was standing outside, just a few steps away, yet it felt like being a lifetime apart. At that moment, I thought, if I stepped in, my foster mother would probably come to find me again, would take me away just like the last time. And I didn't know how many more times I would have to run away to be able to find a place to call home. So I stood there, looking at my father, and turned away. At that moment, I thought if I walked into the house, my foster mother would probably come to find me again, would take me back just like before. And sure enough, before I could step out of the bamboo bushes, I heard the familiar sound of a motorcycle behind me. The man with my foster mother wasn't a stranger. He was my cousin, the one who was asked to look for me whenever I ran away. No one asked me why I left. No one asked if I wanted to return. They just came to take me back. I didn't cry, didn't resist. I just lowered my head and got on the bike. That was when I truly understood one thing. Some children are born not to choose where they belong, but only to live according to the decisions of others. On the other end of the line, he didn't say anything. He only let out a soft sigh, not quite of pity, but of a deep sorrow, from a man who understood all too well the feeling of being abandoned in life. Then he spoke, his voice low and slow. I don't know what to say to ease the wounds within you, but I want you to know you are no longer the child who has no choice. Now, if you feel tired, you can stop. If you feel lost, you can speak up. I will listen, not to fix anything, but so you won't have to go through every pain alone anymore. She bit her lip lightly, and tears welled up without her realizing. For the first time after so many years, she didn't feel the need to be strong. No need to force herself. Just silence and knowing that someone truly was listening, without judgment, without constraints. He spoke softly. Please, continue. She leaned against the side of the bed, the dim light from the phone screen illuminating her face, which was sinking into memories. And she continued. When I was brought back to my foster mother's house that night, I decided to leave again. But this time, I wouldn't go back to my biological parents' house. I felt if I kept returning only to be taken away again, I would never have a place that truly belonged to me. I walked to a neighboring city. I still remember how dark it was that night. I crossed a cemetery, a place full of graves. There were no lights, no people. My heart was pounding, but I didn't stop. I thought, it's better to keep walking than to turn back. Wandering on that dim road, I met a woman. She didn't ask too much. She just looked at me and said, "Where are you going so late, child?" Then she took me to her home, made me a bowl of noodles, and let me eat in the small, brightly lit kitchen. At that moment, I felt so warm inside. She asked me, "Where is your home?" I said, "I don't want to go back anymore." But the next morning, she and her husband took me back. She said, "You can't make your parents worry like this." And then they took me all the way back. From that day on, my foster mother stopped coming to get me. Maybe they understood I no longer wanted to belong there. He was silent for a long time after that message. Then his voice came through the phone, soft as the morning mist. Your life is like a small boat, always being carried by the wind from one shore to another. It has never, ever truly anchor. Yeah, that's true, she whispered. Even now, I still feel adrift. But now, maybe I haven't reached the shore, but at least there's someone who sees me drifting. She smiled through her tears, and that night, no confessions were made, no promises were spoken. But one thing was clear, they had found each other within their own loneliness. She read his last message again, then let out a soft sigh. It was late. The silence in the room was so still that she could hear the ticking of the clock. She bent down and typed the final few lines. It's late. I'm going to sleep now. You should rest too. A short goodbye, but not cold. It carried just enough tenderness, a distance maintained, and something like regret at having to leave a conversation she didn't want to end. She sent the message and set the phone aside. But for the first time in many nights, she didn't feel empty when she turned off the light. No longer did she feel abandoned in this city. There was only a little warmth left over from the messages just exchanged. The story ends here. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the next interesting episodes. Goodbye, and see you again soon.